Oh hi.
Mexico, the state in North America, borders on the United States of America, in the southeast in the north, with Belize and Guatemala, in the west is washed by waters of the Gulf of California and the Pacific Ocean, in the east, waters of the Atlantic Ocean, the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea. The world's largest Spanish-speaking country. About origin of the name of the country exists several hypotheses including based on toponymic legends. According to one legend, the god of war and the patron of the country of Huitzilopochtli had the secret name Metztli or Mesha. In this case Mexico will mean a toponym Mesha's place or the earth of war. Other hypothesis is based that the name Mexico comes from a Slovoslieni of the Aztec words Metztli, moon, and Zictli, navel. And this means the place in the center of the moon, that can mean allegorically location of Tenochtitlan in the middle of the Lake Texcoco. One more hypothesis is that the name of the country is received from Mechtli, the goddess of an agave. I rejected the last two versions, the American linguist Frances Cartoonan. According to her, the final Mexico form differs on length of vowels from both estimated components. The Spanish missionary and the linguist of the 16th century Bernardino de Sahagún in the works noted that the toponymy of Aztec languages is full of mysticism and in turn gave mystical interpretation. Mexico can mean the center of the world, and it is presented in many compositions as the place where all water currents which cross an ocean world are the earth surrounded with the seas. In particular, in drawings in Mendoza Code are flown down. Being located in North America, about 23 northern latitude and 102 the western longitude. Mexico makes the most part of Central America. In terms of physical geography, the territory to the east of the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, including the peninsula Yucatan, which makes about 12% of the territory of the country, is located in Central America. In terms of geology, the Trans-Mexican Volcanic Belt separates the northern region of the country. However, geopolitical Mexico is considered the North American country. The Peninsula California, length of 1200 km. In the west of the country is separated by the Gulf of California. The total area of Mexico is 1,972,550 km, including about 6,000 km islands in the Pacific Ocean, including the island of Guadalupe and the archipelago of Revillagigedo, the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of California. On the area of the territory, Mexico takes the 13th place in the world. In the north, Mexico borders on the USA. Border length -3141 km. To the east from the city of Ciudad Juarez to the Gulf of Mexico, the border passes across the twisting river of Rio Grande. Several natural and man-made marks define border with the USA to the west from Ciudad Juarez to the Pacific Ocean. In the southeast, Mexico borders on Guatemala, 871 km, and Belize, 251 km. Climate of Mexico tropical and subtropical. Level of rainfall is 300-600 year and less.
Including in Mexico City and Guadalajara, the average annual level of rainfall is equal in the majority of the inhabited areas of the southern part of uplands to 600-1000 year.
Stem of thermometer in areas to the north of the 24th parallel, be located higher than 2500 m above sea level, fluctuates from +2 C in the winter up to +15 C in the summer.
At the same time on the coast is closer to the south, temperature is constant and below +20 C don't fall.
Average annual temperature on coastal plains and the peninsula Yucatan is from +24 C to +28 C. Mexico is crossed from the north on the south by two ridges. Sierra Madre East and Sierra Madre Western, which are continuation of the Rocky Mountains of North America. From the east on the west in the center of the country there passes the Trans-Mexican Volcanic Belt, also known as Sierra Nevada. The fourth ridge, Sierra Madre Southern, is located between states Michoacan and Oaxaca. Thus, the most part of the central Mexico and northern territories are located at big heights.
The highest mountains are on the Trans-Mexican Volcanic Belt.
Pico Orizaba, 5700 m. Popocatépetl, 5462 m. Iztaccíhuatl, 5286 m. And Nevado de Toluca, 4577 m. Three large city agglomerations are located in valleys between these four heights: Toluca de Lerdo, Mexico City, and Puebla de Zaragoza. In the territory of Mexico there are several tens enough large lakes and reservoirs. Evidence of stay of the person in the territory of Mexico belongs at least to the 20 millennium BB. In the middle of the I millennium BB in the central and southern Mexico there are settled cultures.
In the 12th centuries BB in the territory of Mexico the culture of Olmecs, which had a considerable impact on formation of later classical civilizations, thrived.
Blossoming of these civilizations fell on the 4-9 centuries at. It were the cultures of Teotihuacan, Zapotec, Totonac, Toltecs, the Maya. The hieroglyphic letter, the developed architecture and arts and crafts, extensive knowledge of mathematics and astronomy, the exact calendar belonged to achievements of the Maya. In the 12th century in the central Mexico Aztecs appear. Having conquered many tribes living there, they created the powerful empire.
In 1517 the purposeful research and conquest of Mexico by Europeans began.
Spaniards sent 3 expeditions to coast of the Gulf of Mexico. The first in 1517 Francisco Hernandez de Cordoba headed, the second in 1518 Juan de Grijalva, and a third in 1519 Hernan Cortés, the subjugator of the Empire of Aztecs.
In 1522 the Spanish Emperor Charles V approved the last as the general captain and the governor of the One Lands, having given lands of 64750 came to his possession
from Indians living on them. In 1528 Cortés's power was limited. The Audiencia, the administrative and judicial board submitting directly to the king, was sent to Mexico. In 1535 Mexico was a part of the newly created vice-kingdom New Spain. From 1521 to 1821 Mexico remained colonial possession of Spain.
Her economy was based on exploitation of the Indians forced to work at the lands which are taken away from them and at mines.
The economy of New Spain submitted the interests of the mother country. Extraction of precious metals became her major industry.
discontent of various segments of the population with discrimination and political lawlessness on the one hand and events on the European continent, fight of the English colonies in North America for independence, penetration into Latin America of the progressive ideas, with another caused peasants' revolts of 1810 which led Mexico to the 10 Years' War of Independence.
Priests Miguel Hidalgo and Costilla and Jose Maria Morelos were distinguished from leaders of insurgents, both were grabbed and executed. At the end of war, liberation movement was headed by Agustin de Iturbide. On August 24, 1821, representatives of the Spanish crown and Iturbide signed the Córdoba Contract, which independence of Mexico according to provisions of Hidalgo's plan admitted.
On September 27 the Liberation Army entered Mexico City, and on September 28 in the capital, the Declaration of Independence of the Mexican Empire was published on May
1822. The people and garrison of the city of Mexico City proclaimed Iturbide the Mexican emperor, and he came to the throne under a name of Augustino. In March 1823 the empire fell, Mexico becomes the republic. In 1835 the Mexican state of Texas begins the War of Independence. As a result of the decisive battle of 1836 lost by Mexicans, the Republic Texas achieved office, and soon, in 1845, entered Shaw. In 1841-1848 on the peninsula of the same name there was a Republic Yucatan which announced separation from Mexico. In 1845 the revolt in California broke out, insurgents declared creation of own government. In the spring of 1846 on the Mexican territory troops of the USA intruded. To fall of 1847 Americans occupied the extensive area and the capital, Mexico City. An end to war was put by the contract Guadalupe Hidalgo signed on February 2, 1848. To the USA the top California, New Mexico and parts of lands of other states departed. It made more than a half of all area of Mexico.
In 1854-1860 there take place bourgeois revolution and civil war between the Mexican conservatives and liberals led by Benito Juárez.
The conflict terminated in an unconditional victory of the last. In 1861 Great Britain, France and Spain supported by the Mexican conservatives undertook intervention to Mexico. In 1862 their coalition broke up, but in Mexico there were troops of France. Her army occupied a number of states and entered Mexico City.
The country was announced by the empire headed by the monarch Maximilian I.
As aggressors were supported by only small minority of Mexicans, in 1867 Napoleon III, having more ambitious plans in Europe and being afraid of intervention of the USA, disengaged the French troops from Mexico. In 1867 Maximilian's strength were broken, and he is condemned and shot. In 1876, having made a revolution, the General Porfirio Diaz running the country more than 30 years came to the power. The back of economic progress of his board was the high social tension.
In 1910 the Civil War which terminated in adoption of the Constitution of 1917 began. The 1920th years are celebrated by revolutionary caudillism, in particular it was expressed during finding in power of Plutarco Calles. In 1934, Lazaro Cardenas, famous for nationalization of the property belonging to the foreign oil companies, becomes the president. In the 1940th years, the economic recovery, which terminated in the crisis of the 1980th years caused by drop in oil prices, begins.
In the mid-80s, the country passes to the neoliberal reforms. In 1994, the revolt of the Zapatistas opposing neoliberalism begins. As a result, investors began to treat with care an investment of the money in the unstable region that led same year to new financial and economic crisis.
In 2000 in Mexico there took place the elections which put an end to long-term hegemony of the Institutional Revolutionary Party.
ARP. The victory was won by the representative of PND Vicente Fox. But on July 1, 2012, again the candidate of ARP, Enrique Peña Nieto, who entered a position on December 1, 2012, was elected the president of the country. For more years, armed conflicts of drug cartels with authorities of the country amplified. On July 10, 2006 in Mexico, regular presidential elections took place. The candidate of ruling party of National Action, Felipe Calderon, who received votes 35.88%, won. For his main rival, the leader of opposition Revolutionary Democratic Party Andrés Manuel López Obrador, voters 35.31% voted. In September 2006, the Federal Electoral Tribunal of Mexico recognized Felipe Calderon as the elected president. The new president entered the position on December 1, 2006 for 6 years. On July 1, 2012, the regular election of the President of Mexico, at which Enrique Peña Nieto won, took place.
I entered a position on December 1, 2012.
On July 1, 2018, on elections, the candidate of the Together We Will Make History English coalition, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, I entered a position on December 1, 2018. Is elected the President of Mexico. The two-chamber Congress, the Senate, 128 places, are chosen for a 6-year term. And the Chamber of Deputies, 500 places, are chosen for a 3-year term. The basic principles of foreign policy of Mexico are the respect of international law and legal equality of the states, recognition of sovereignty and independence of the states, non-interference to internal affairs of other countries, peaceful settlement of the conflicts and assistance of collective security by means of participation in the international organizations. Traditionally, foreign policy of Mexico was defined by predisposition to the left, pro-revolutionary and nationalist circles.
Showing independence of foreign policy of the United States, Mexico supported the Cuban government in the 1960th years, Sandinista revolution in Nicaragua in the late 70s, and the left revolutionary groups in El Salvador in the 1980th years.
Population -133,140,936 people by assessment for December 2018. The self-named Mexicans. Mexicanos. Annual gain -1.1%. Emigration level -0.4%, fertility -2.3 births on the woman. Average life expectancy. Men have 73 years, 79 years at women. Age structure. From 0 to 14 years -28.7%, from 15 to 64 years -64.9%, 65 years are also more senior -6.4%.
For 2010.
Ethno-racial structure. Caucasians -67 million, mixed -48 million, Indians -15 million, Africans -5 million.
Religions.
Catholics -76.5%, Protestants -4.9%. Including Pentecostals from the Assemblies of God -1.4%. Atheists -3.1%, Jehovah's Witnesses -1.1%. 1.91% for 2011. Undecideds -13.8%, other religions -0.3%. On a census of 2000. Several thousands of Mexicans are Orthodox Christians in jurisdiction of Orthodox Church in America.
Languages.
92.7% of the population speak only Spanish, 5.7% in Spanish and any Indian language, 0.8% know only language of local Indians. Assessment of 2005. Literacy. 92% of men, 89% of women, the general literacy -91%. Assessment of 2004. Urban saturation -77%. In 2008. Contamination, a virus of an immunodeficiency. HIV. -0.3%. Assessment of 2007. Total number of the infected HIV -200,000 people. The 30th place in the world. Mexico administratively is divided into 31 state estados and 1 federal district. Distrito Federal. In total called federal educations. Entidades federativas.
According to the Constitution of 1917, states are free and sovereign, and they are free to operate themselves under the laws.
Each state has the constitution which can't contradict the federal constitution, which covers questions of national competence.
Its states can't conclude the alliances with other states or any independent nation without the consent of all federation, except for agreements on protection and safety necessary for safety of the border states in case of invasion.
Municipalities. The states are divided into municipalities. In total in Mexico 48 municipalities. Apart from 16 districts of Mexico City. Mexico, the industrial and agrarian country, one of the most economically developed in America.
Oil production, natural gas.
One of the leading places in America. Iron ore, sulfur, ores of antimony, mercury and graphite is made. Mexico, one of the world's leading producers and exporters of fluorspar. In manufacturing industry, ferrous and non-ferrous metallurgy, mechanical engineering, the chemical and petrochemical, cotton, food and flavoring industries are most developed. Oil processing is developed insufficiently. Being one of the largest world exporters of oil, Mexico imports oil products. In agriculture, the crop production prevails. Corn, wheat, soy, rice, beans, cotton, coffee, fruit, tomatoes. Logging are developed. Mexico is included into the North American Free Trade Zone. NAFTA. Created in 1994-2008.
As a result, for 1993-2013 export of Mexico to the USA grew from $49.5 billion to $277.7 billion, and to Canada from $3.3 billion to $25.5 billion.
An import cost for this period increased from the USA from $50.8 billion to $216.3 billion, and from Canada from $0.8 billion to $5.4 billion. Export $357 billion. In 2011.
Electronic equipment, cause and details for them, oil and oil products, gold and metals.
The main recipients: the USA 71%, Canada 6.5%, China 2.1%, Colombia 1.7%, Germany 1.6%. Import $280 billion. In 2011. Industrial equipment, cars and details of cars, aircraft equipment, electronic equipment. The main suppliers: the USA 57%, Canada 9%, China 9%, Germany 2.6%, Brazil 2.3%. In Mexico, production and drug traffic are widely developed. The country is the main transit hub of sending drugs to the USA. The Mexican drug cartels exist several decades. Till 1980th years, the role of Mexico consisted in transit of drugs from Colombia to North America, but also own production gradually began to extend.
The Mexican drug cartels amplified after disintegration in the 1990s of the Colombian drug cartels, Medellínsky and Cali.
Many government institutions of Mexico assist drug cartels in their activity.
Not only police officers, but also officers of army participate in the conflicts with authorities of the country on the party of drug cartels. On structure of drug trafficking, Mexico considerably differs from the countries of the Andean Triangle.
She takes the fourth place in Latin America on total production of drugs of plant origin and strongly advances other countries on production of synthetic drugs.
Along with Colombia, Mexico takes the leading positions in the region on cultivation of opium poppy and production of heroin.
Now Mexico is the main foreign supplier of cannabis, cocaine and methamphetamine in the USA, and the Mexican drug cartels dominate in the wholesale illegal market of drugs in Shaw.
From a pre-Columbian era, we were reached by samples of lyrical and epic poetry of indigenous people of Mesoamerica.
The first samples of actually Mexican literature, the Chronicle Conquist. Conquistadors Hernan Cortés and Bernal Díaz del Castillo, monks Bernardino de Sahagún, Toribio Mussolini and Juan de Torquemada were the brightest representatives of this genre.
The most noticeable of the works written in the first decades of stay of Spaniards in the territory of present Mexico is A General Story About Affairs of New Spain of Bernardino de Sahagún, to whom he devoted all the life. This work is written in languages in Spanish and includes the description of a civilization of the Maya.
The poem by Bernardo de Balbuena, Magnificence of Mexico, 1604, became the first work of art of the Mexican literature. In the 17th century, three figures are distinguished from representatives of so-called scientific poetry. Carlos Sigüenza y Góngora, Poetas Juana Inés de la Cruz and Juan Ruiz de Alarcón. By the end of the 18th century, with maturing of a protest minds the colonial mode of Spain, the trend of self-affirmation found expression in such works as the poem Rural Mexico, 1781. Ovar, Landover and the Ancient History of Mexico, 1780-1781. Francisco Claviero. In 1990, the Mexican poet and the essayist Octavio Paz was conferred the Nobel Prize on Literature. The most popular sport is the soccer. Summer Olympic Games 1968 took place in Mexico City. The country hosted the FIFA World Cup, 1970, 1986. Twice. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.